Welcome back to the show. Here's a look at the NFL Divisional round schedule this weekend, featuring 2 games each day. And if we learned anything from the wild card round, no lead is safe. This postseason already has the most fourth quarter lead changes, 12. Most game-winning touchdowns in the final 3 minutes, 4 in a single postseason all time. Let's bring in Amy Trask to talk about these games. And I must have done something right, because I get to talk to Amy twice in about a week. So I'm going to go buy some Powerball tickets after this. Amy, great to be with you. Let's first talk about weather and how it impacts a team. For instance, you're expected to play in a, quote, weather game. What's the preparation like for a team that has to deal with that, especially if they're from maybe California or Florida or the like?
Imagine that. Always a pleasure to join you, Tommy. Look, there's an expression that I hate. I don't know why I hate it, but I hate it. It is what it is. But that's the case when it comes to weather. The weather is going to be what it's going to be. And I know cold weather games. We played in Green Bay on December 26th. We played in Buffalo in January multiple times. So I know cold weather games, but I also know that equipment staffs do a tremendous, tremendous job of outfitting not only players, but those on staff who are at the game on the sideline or not, with just top-notch cold weather gear, hand warmers, gloves, hats, everything. And look, Tommy, I was sitting inside at those games, and I had that cold weather gear because I thought I was going to die. Now, I'm, of course, not playing. I'm not on the sideline, but it is what it is. And what players and teams have to do is not let it affect their psyche. Go in and play. You know what warms you up? Winning.
No doubt about that. We're actually looking at some images of what the Rams did in Philadelphia last year in the blizzard. And again, this was a West Coast team. They said, oh, the Rams can't handle it. And they gave the Eagles arguably their toughest test en route to the Super Bowl last year. So it can't happen. Those West Coast teams can sometimes shed that whole, like, hey, they can't play in cold weather. What about noise impacts? Kind of the same similar thing in terms of knowing going into a hostile environment. What's the preparation like there, Amy?
It is absolutely similar in the regard you just noted, but I think it's more of an issue than cold weather games, because noise, crowd noise, can impact the way a team handles the game. You're going to have to go to a silent count. It's very difficult to change the play at the line of scrimmage. Makes shotgun very hard. So I think the noise is a bigger issue than the weather, or it should be a bigger issue, because people should put the weather aside. Now, look, 2 of the home teams this week, Denver and Seattle, have very, very loud crowds. And I mean that in the best way. Those fans are cacophonous and create a tremendous advantage. But one other thing to remember, Brock Purdy has gone into Seattle and faced that crowd noise, and he's 4-0 when so doing. So do I think crowd noise is a bigger issue than the weather? Yes, I do. Brock has shown he can handle it.
To follow up on that, if I may, Amy, then, we hear stories about, injecting crowd noise and blowing up speakers and doing different things to sort of simulate that. Did you ever find your time with the Raiders anything that really stuck out and worked?
Oh, absolutely. Teams do that all the time. I will speak from personal experience. We brought large speakers. Now, remember, this was the olden days before they had little itty bitty speakers. We brought large speakers out to the field. We turned on music. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Tommy. We turned on music, loud noise, crowd noise, anything you can to prepare.
Let's get to the head coaching vacancies that we're seeing in the NFL right now, specifically the AFC North with the Steelers and the Ravens. They had 2 of the longest tenured head coaches in the league who are now leaving their posts, and now there's openings at both Pittsburgh and Baltimore. What stands out to you about those 2 situations, those 2 teams and coaches that will eventually take over at those posts?
Well, what happenstance, if you will, or karma, if you want to use that word instead, that 2 teams in the same division with 2 of the longest tenured coaches are seeing a change at the same time. And just to put perspective on how long these coaches were with their team, Mike Tomlin joined the Steelers the same year the first iPhone was released, 2007.
Wow.
And John Harbaugh joined the Ravens in 2008, I believe it was. He was there 18 years. Tomlin was there 19 years. I won't do the math for you in terms of what year it was, but I will tell you this. When John Harbaugh joined the Ravens, there wasn't even any Instagram yet. So that puts in perspective how long these men have been with their teams. And the big issue for both of these teams now is going to be deciding, do they want to follow a similar path, or do they want to just go entirely differently with respect to their new head coaches? I think the ownership of both teams does what the best owners do. They best position their head coaches to be their best. So if I'm a head coach right now, if I'm looking right now for a head coaching job, I'm telling whomever represents me, check in with the Steelers and check in with the Ravens, because I'm very interested in going there.
It is a wild division where Zach Taylor's out there in Cincinnati, but the rest all have head coaching vacancies. If we throw Cleveland also in the mix, which is quite interesting, Amy, as well, you know. Speaking of John Harbaugh, questions about how he fits with the Giants. Again, no contract officially signed yet, but our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, says it is going to be a done deal. What do you think about the Harbaugh-Giants marriage?
Well, of course, Jonathan has tremendous gravitas in all that he reports, or with respect to all that he reports. But I will note, simply because I'm the person joining you today who went to law school, I don't know that any of your other friends who are joining you today did. So I'm going to channel Elle Woods from Legally Blonde and say, law school, and note that it has been reported that there are language issues in the contract. Language issues, that can often be a bigger issue than many believe it to be. So I wouldn't be being true to my law school roots if I didn't note that when I saw there are language issues, that was a bit of a bell for me. But that said, if Jonathan reports that it's done, let's go with Jonathan for surely sure. I will say of John Mara and Steve Tisch, that which I just said of Steve Bisciotti and Art Rooney, they are owners who are deeply, deeply passionate about their teams, committed to winning, and will do what the best owners do. They're going to position John, if he becomes the head coach, as the best possible he can be for that team. I think it's an interesting hire. And by the way, if I'm the Ravens, my fingers are crossed that he's going to the Giants, because then not only is he out of our division, he's out of our conference. And that would make me very, very happy if I were Steve.
Amy, I do think you bring up a good point, though, because it's been about 2 days. So how concerned Giants fans should be that everything leads to Harbaugh to the Giants. And yet, though, because news came out Wednesday, it's Thursday. We're now talking on Friday that we may not actually get anything official till maybe on Monday.
Well, look, I don't think they should be too concerned, because as a general rule, these things are worked out, and I imagine they will be. But again, and yes, I'm being silly when I say I'm channeling Elle Woods with the law school comment, but when you do have a legal background and you hear that there's language issues, you just know that sometimes that can be more than people believe it to be. Do I think they'll work it out? Yeah. Sort of, kind of, probably. But am I having an eye on it? Yeah, I am.
Yeah, no doubt about it. 99% is 99%, but we have seen in NFL history that 1% where things have certainly flipped before. So we'll keep tabs on that situation, of course. And then the Vegas situation is something you and I chatted about last time. As of today, I think they've interviewed 8 candidates, Amy. So just give me a sense of where Vegas would be at during the process right now. And I think you have someone that you perhaps would favor in terms of taking over that post there on the sidelines out in Vegas.
I do have an idea. Where they are in the process, I don't know firsthand, but it certainly appears that they're interviewing quite a number of people, which I think is a very good idea. Why wouldn't you interview a number of people to best decide who you want? But you also have to be careful that you don't take so long in your process that you lose a candidate or candidates to other teams and then regret that you lost the ability to hire that person. I believe the Raiders need to hire a leader, someone who is a tremendous leader who can come in and unite the organization and lead it internally. You know what? You can find a really good offensive coordinator. You can find a really good defensive coordinator to help out so that your head coach can lead that organization, not just on the field, but in many, many ways off the field as well. My suggestion in that regard, Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin can come in and be a strong, strong leader for that team. And, while I'm at it, why not add Brian Flores is your defensive coordinator. Why not add Brian Dable as your offensive coordinator? There's a lot of history there between and among Mike Tomlin and these men, Tom Brady and these men. So go get yourself a phenomenal defensive coordinator, a really good offensive coordinator, and bring in a leader to lead that organization in a Raider way.
You bring up a great name. I don't know how many Raider fans would push back on that, Amy, but speaking of sort of legality and contracts and stuff, with Mike Tomlin stepping down, still having some years remaining, how does that work out?
I am glad you asked that, and I have a strong view on that. I believe that the Steelers want what's best for Mike. A long history, as I noted earlier. He's been there for 19 years, never had a losing season. Having worked with the Rooneys during my year in the league, I believe the Rooneys are going to want to do what is right and best for Mike. So will they want some compensation? Probably. Do I think they're going to hold it up over seeking tremendous compensation that any team will say, yeah, no, done? I don't think they'll do that. I think, they might even say, we don't want any compensation. Take them. We want what's best for Mike. But even if they do ask for compensation, I don't believe they're going to say, put your hands up, stick them up, we're taking everything you have.
Great stuff as always. Amy, thanks for joining the show. Have a great weekend. Appreciate you. Amy Trask joining us here on HQ Spotlight as you're taking a look at the head coaching carousel. Again, John Harbaugh, no official contract signed yet, but everything leads to him joining the Giants over at MetLife. By the way, just to give you a note on Mike Tomlin, 2 years remaining on a 3-year, $50 million extension that he had signed back in June of 2024.